enable and establish the new work order with confidence. I'm Linda Hammond, and you're watching Sparking Discovery, which is about remaining relevant, which we believe is done by exposing ourselves to thought leaders in their fields. This is where we lean into their experience and gather as much as we can to help us make the right decisions or make the decision right. This evening, we'll be investigating the new work order from an FM perspective, facilities management. And we have two extraordinary thought leaders in the facilities management field. They're not only leaders in the field of facility management, but they're also a special breed. They're both entrepreneurs as well. So welcome to Andrew Mason from Workplace Fundi and Cliff Hocking from Wilcox Facilities Management Services. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. So let me give you some background. Andrew runs Workplace Fundi, an independent workplace and facilities management advisory that helps smart organizations create and manage amazing workplaces so that their people can do amazing work and start growing their business. With 35 years of experience, starting with his own project management concern in the UK and ramping that up to senior executive positions at two of the largest FM operators on the African continent, he is in demand by publishers of industry journals, as a keynote at conferences, and most importantly by his clients. Thanks for being with us here, Andrew. We're really pleased to have you on the show. Cliff is the owner and principal consultant of Wilcox FM Services. He provides consulting and training services to the FM industry. He's 45 years of business experience in a wide spectrum of sectors. He has implemented and managed outsourced contracts in SA and abroad, and he provides property and utilities management, facilities planning, and contract management training across Africa. He, like Andrew, has been involved with SAFMA for many years. Thanks for being with us here, Cliff. Thank you.
Nice to be with you.
Good. Thanks a lot. So let's get into it. So one of the things we've been talking about, the workplace as we know it, an office which everybody flocks to and leaves from during the lockdown has changed forever. It's less revered, definitely less valued, perhaps a pre-2020 relic. Just like the parking lot has become the new pickup place. I don't know if you've seen Nando's ad. How do we now redefine the workplace? Each organization has a multitude of workplaces with people working from home. What does this mean for the FM industry? And what does it mean for businesses whose people are not interested in returning to the workplace? And there's plenty of those. Last week I interviewed an organization, and the majority of the people don't want to go back, and they're not going to force them to go back. So, that was just really interesting for me. So tonight, Andrew and Cliff will be giving us some guidance around that. So with each individual having these unique experiences of their work that is interspersed with their family interactions and their dogs and their kids and whatever, how do you see the workplace changing, Andrew?
Thanks, Linda. I love this idea of this work order. And I think there's some really good work that you've done. I see FM as being at a crossroads. We are at a pivot point. I think there is a huge opportunity that we have in what is going to be a very, very changed workplace. Firstly, I want to put two popular misconceptions to bed before we really get into this. And the first misconception is that a workplace doesn't mean an office. And I think that's something we tend to gravitate towards. We tend to think of workplace as being the sort of shiny glass building corporate office. A workplace is anywhere where work gets done. It's not just offices, and certainly working from home seems to have, lent towards the corporate office. But there are plenty of people that work in retail, that work in factories, that work in theatres, that just cannot work from home. And so we need to consider that as well. The second misconception I want to try and put to bed is this idea that facilities management equals maintenance. It doesn't. Maintenance is just one of those vertical services. Facilities management is a professional management discipline that integrates all of the services that are delivered to a facility. You know, the majority of services that are delivered are focused on people. It's only maintenance that's focused on the asset. So for me, facilities management is about people delivering services to other people. You know, it's not about the box, it's about the people in that box. But a large percentage of those people are now, of course, not in the box. They are in their own little box at home. And I think that's the question that we're all grappling with. So does that mean the death of the office? Well, you know, the death of the office has been predicted many, many times in the past. No, I don't think it is. I think it means that FM needs to be delivered differently, in a different place, at a different time, in a different way. And that's going to require innovation. You know, Theodore Levitt, I think in '62, said this idea that people want a quarter-inch hole, they don't want a quarter-inch drill. About 2 years ago, I put my own spin on.
No, I just said that's a really good saying.
That actually underpins the whole FM idea, is that you want services. I don't want to have to buy a drill. I want someone to come and drill that hole for me, or whatever it might be. I put my own spin on it. I said that organizations don't want facilities, and coming from a facilities manager, that may sound strange, but organizations don't want facilities. What they want is an effective and productive workforce. So for me, FM is not about a non-core function. It's more than just sweeping, cleaning, catering. It's an enabler of core business. So for me, FM is very closely tied to the future of work. Now, anybody that's been in our space knows every man and his dog is out there pontificating and trying to polish that crystal ball as to what the future of work looks like. But this, you know, it's in the making now. That most crystal balls are more cloudy than most people would have us believe. And I think we need to be careful of some of the vested interests that lay behind a multitude of these reports. You can sure as eggs is eggs, see some of the big property companies are punting this return to the office. But, you know, we're not the USA or the UK. SA is very different. Socio and economically, we need to get back to the office because a lot of our people just don't have the infrastructure at home to be able to work from home. So whatever that new world of work may look like, and we may get onto that, whether it's the hub and club model, whether it's part-time going to work, I think we will end up going back to work. And I understand what you're saying, that people don't want to go back, but I think there is also, there's a shift now saying people realize that, you know, going it alone in your own bedroom or wherever you're set up is not ideal. And I think we are going to get to that point where we're going to have to hit a balance of when we go back to work or not.
I agree with that. So it was quite interesting. One of my friends, a lot of people during the lockdown went to their home. So some of them went to Durban and some of them went to Cape Town where their parents were, so that their parents could look after the kids so they could work online. Some of them all gathered at the parents' house and there just weren't enough desks. And so the one had her ironing board next to her bed, and that she sort of like balanced her PC on the ironing board. So Cliff, you've been in the industry for a long time. What are your views on the disruption of the workplace, and how's that affecting business owners and landlords alike? You know, how does it affect their physical well-being, their emotional well-being? What are some of the challenges, concerns that they've been expressing that you've heard them talking about?
Well, the major aspect from the sort of business owners or business executives is the issue around staff and personnel physical well-being and emotional well-being. I mean, the examples that you quoted there, people working off an ironing board and balancing a laptop literally on their lap, you know, sitting at a dining room chair.
Can't because be good there aren't enough doing that 8 hours a day.
Tables to go around. So the whole disruption in society, I think, has had a huge impact on individuals. I think the whole issue or the whole topic of working from home has led to a lot of isolation and a lot of people feeling really sort of cut off from the real world. You know, it was a wonderful novelty during the end of March and into April to have these meetings via Teams or Zoom or whatever was being used. my personal view and my personal experience is that novelty has seriously worn off now. And as human beings, if we have to be honest with ourselves, we are, for all intents and purposes, social animals.
Sure.
And we need that sort of social interaction to get the best out of each other. The whole concept of the remote meeting, you don't really get a good feel for what people are wanting to express. That body language is missing. In a lot of cases, the video streaming is switched off because of bandwidth issues and so forth. So for what you know, people could be just grunting every now and again, sort of agreeing with you, but not really switched on to what the topic is all about. And I think that has played a role with both business owners, with executives, and it's had an impact on the property owners for sure. And Andrew mentioned that the property owners are advocating the return to the workplace, and that's for pretty obvious reasons, for the impact on the economy in generally. So
I think it's interesting. It's going to have a huge shift. I think even in instances of culture, Andrew, you and I were talking about the incidental cooler machine conversations that have sometimes just sparked something, And I also think that a lot of the people that have gone back, where half are going now and half are going later, they get there and they say it's just awful. There's nobody there. It's like, a ghost town. And so, when I look at it, I think, if I look at one of the colleges here, we're close to where we live, they've now started an online campus where they are doing remote learning, and the students are coming there as a place to get together, but it's completely reconfigured the way it looks. It looks more like a oversized coffee shop, and there's just everybody hanging around everywhere with PCs. Do you think maybe that's a direction that people are going to go to? Where you've got a very different environment. It's not what we used to, desks and rows and dividers between the desks. Do you think that will change at all?
Well, I think we could go back. But we shouldn't, in my view. The genie is out of the bottle. I mean, that's pretty much a cliche now. But you can't unscramble those eggs, unfortunately. FM in itself is much more than just returning to a COVID-safe office. It's not about hand sanitizer, tape screens, social distancing stickers, etc. We need to take this opportunity to rethink how we work going forward. This is, it's a bit like the days of the old double entry book accounting. When computers came along, you had the guys that they kept their double entry book and their hand entries and worked on the computer, or they worked on the computer in exactly the same way as they would in a ledger. And that doesn't work. We have to reconsider how we work. And this is a great opportunity for South Africa to catch up with the rest of the world, because we're all going through this. We're all going through it. We've got to put our spin on it. But it all starts, in my view, with the workplace strategy, and how that workplace supports and enables the workforce of the future to do the work of the future. And that world is going to change. And now is the opportunity to do it. Innovation requires that perspective shift, and we've certainly had that in COVID. The one thing I can tell you, I mean, it's a bit like Einstein's. Einstein was once asked, what are they going to fight the weapons of the Third World War with? He said, I don't know, but I can tell you what they'll fight the Fourth World War with. And they said, what? He said, sticks and stones. And this is it. It's about taking that opportunity. It's a funny irony, that it's we're talking about the health and well-being of workers. Well, that's something that's never really been top of the list, certainly in South Africa. And it's a funny irony that customers say that their people are their biggest asset.
Then they fight in the boardroom about the price of the coffee.
Their workplace on their people. So for me, it goes beyond this idea of typical customer satisfaction, rate our service type surveys. They often only serve the purpose of the service provider trying to wave their own flag, saying, look how good we are. Those typical customer satisfaction surveys tell very little about how that workplace supports both their people or the client's business. So for me, if we're going to understand the future world of work and how our clients are going to work, we need to measure metrics that look at corporate performance, people performance, and facility performance. And that sort of three-circle Venn diagram, that bit in the middle, those are the people. If we can get that right, then we can catch up with the rest of the world. And we needn't stand back for anything that's done in the Northern Hemisphere.
I really liked your idea of having a workplace work order strategy, because I don't think many people have got it. There's either how we were or how we are now. There's nothing whereby we can say, well, if we leapfrog this, we'll have that. And they're not looking beyond what we had or what we've got now. So there's no kind of like hybrid, there's no kind of conversation about what should the strategy be moving forward. It's I think to a large extent, the strategy has just resulted in, let's cut out a lot of the office space so we can save money. And I don't necessarily think that's actually going to help us, So I think when we talk about culture, we always talk about, it's like the fish in the water. The fish is the person and the culture is the water it's swimming in. And everybody's always trying to just worry about, is the water clean? Is the water pristine? Is there enough vitamins in the water or whatever? But notice what the fish does, because if he goes down underneath and he digs up the rocks and he scatters them all over, you can run around trying to clean that water as much as you like. As soon as it's clean, he's going to do it again. So they need to focus on the fish. And I think that, to me, that is something which they haven't done for a long time. It's exactly what you say. It's paying lip service to saying, yes, our people are our best assets, but I don't think they do it from a facilities point of view. I don't think they do it from a performance management point of view. I think it's just, it's a situation which is long overdue. So if I look back, we launched the Human Activation Conference in 2015. And we actually said, if you have a look at where we've come from, which was sort of like the Stone Age and then the Industrial Age and then the Age of Information, etc., somewhere in there, we've lost our humanity. And I kept on saying, I don't think you need to go back to find it. You need to reactivate it. And I think COVID has done that. It's reactivated our humanity. And I think people need to sit up now and pay attention. So Cliff, we don't have lank amount of times, but I'm dying to ask you this. If I had to ask you three things that were really difficult for you during the pandemic, just at a professional and at a personal level, what were they?
The first one was the isolation.
Yeah.
Definitely. The lack of interaction. Talking to a laptop screen, seeing some faces around, but not having that real interaction to be able to get the communication flow going the way that I believe it should be. The second one was a little bit the technology side. We keep on talking about the use of technology and enhancing our performance through technology. But there were many instances where bandwidth was lacking, the infrastructure was lacking, and as was mentioned earlier, sitting where we are, there are a lot of people in this country, a lot of areas in this country that don't actually have access to what is required in terms of the ability to be able to interact and to perform remotely. The whole, what do you call it? The whole buzz, the whole business buzz to me was lacking. It's another really strong negative as far as I'm concerned. It became too damn easy to set up meetings. And you'd have meetings set up for meetings about meetings.
You get a bit zoomed out,
Absolutely. And you started wondering, I felt a song coming on. What's it all about, Alfie? It was that sort of scenario.
So I can resonate with a lot of that, and it was something that somebody said to me a while ago and said to me, if you go to prison and you get punished, they put you into isolation, and I thought about it and I thought, geez, no wonder I'm so bloody miserable. That must be what it is, so I can resonate with that. And I think getting zoomed out is that you don't even have an opportunity in between things because you feel so compelled to try and keep business going through the PC that you're too scared to even just get up and go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. You've got to be at the next meeting. It's been useful though for people to keep time. I found a lot of people have stuck to their time. Whereas when there was physical, it was always, I'm half an hour late, and most of the time it was true because of traffic, but I found that quite refreshing. And I think most people gained 2 to 3 hours a day just in travel time that they got back. Andrew, what 3 things could you think of?
FMs have been on the front line, behind the scenes, as they usually are during COVID. They kept hospitals going. I mean, a classic example is the conversion of the Cape Town International Conference Centre to a field hospital. That was done by the FM team.
Yeah.
Unsung heroes. But now, what's happening, that's a good thing. But what's happening now is in the rush to cut costs, FMs are being made redundant, they're being cast aside. And I think that's foolish. I think now is the time we should be investing in our FMs because the world of work is changing and so is the workplace. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think you hit on it, and we talked about it last week sometime, was this idea of serendipity. This serendipitous water cooler moment, and the loss of that is a big issue. Cliff talks about the Zoom meetings, that 5 minutes before the meeting and the 10 minutes after, when you can have a cup of coffee with somebody, or that walk to the meeting where you can possibly doorstep senior leaders in the team that you may not have the normal day-to-day contact with. That was a big issue. And I think the third thing, for both Cliff and I, we're both consultants and advisors in the business. Our business revolves around relationships, and that has been hard. That's been really hard.
No, I agree with you there. Ours does as well, and it is trying to build those relationships. And I find that mailing people, I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of times I just get no response. People just don't respond, and you kind of like, there's sometimes that I sort of like, I'm just going to go out the gates because I'm feeling like Robinson Crusoe right now and I just can't do this anymore, So I think now that everything's open again, we need to go for a beer, guys. And then just following on from that, if there, what 3 things would you be very disappointed if they do go back to pre-COVID? Cliff?
Well, to try and pinpoint on 3 issues. I think the major issue would be just to gravitate back to what people perceive to be a normal situation. Yeah, we're going to go to the office. We're going to do our bit during the day. We're going to expect our services to be there. And facilities management is far more than just looking after that space. It's far more than just providing a comfortable environment. The move has got to be sustained, be it in the office environment, be it in a remote environment, where you have an interaction between your typical facilities management thinking, your human resources thinking, your information technology thinking, in order to create that workplace experience.
Yeah.
And if we go back to a normal, what we see as a normal situation, and lose sight of this sort of concept of a workplace experience, irrespective of where you are, whether you in an office, whether you in a study at home, whether you're sitting on a cruise liner between Durban and the Portuguese islands, but that workplace experience is what's got to be nurtured and what has got to be developed on.
Yeah, I think you could be right. And yourself, Andrew, what would you be disappointed about? Well,
I think we've got, as I said right at the very beginning, I think we stand on the on the cusp of a real opportunity. And so my biggest disappointment is if we don't use that opportunity. And that, workplace is now very high on the agenda of the C-suite. Tim Oldman, the CEO of Leesman Index, which is the world's biggest database on workplace performance, said in June that the boardrooms may be empty, but it's workplace is item number one on the board agenda. And this is a once in a career opportunity for us to step up and meet that challenge. So I'd be disappointed if we didn't take advantage of that. I think I'd also be disappointed if this so-called focus on people and experience that Cliff talks about, which is absolutely crucial to our product, if we lose that and we go back to looking after the box rather than looking after the people in the box. And I think the other thing is this idea of standards. Everybody knows ISO 9001 standard. FM has its own international standard. And certainly, had that global standard been in place in more places prior to COVID, many of our institutions, we wouldn't have predicted the virus, but they would be much more resilient and much more agile, and we would have had better outcomes. So I'd like to see the workplace opportunity taken advantage. I'd like us to still focus on the people and, yes, the workplace experience, but also back that up with professional standards.
Yeah, I think, if I look at it and I've listened to you, I think the thing that came out to me very clearly is this idea of having a new workplace work order strategy. I don't think that's there. Like I said, I truly believe in all the experience that I've had with clients to date. It's either we go back to the old or we cut costs and just have half our offices and everybody carries on COVID. And I don't think that's a solution. I think you're 100% right. We have to try and find a way to cross that bridge, to leapfrog some areas and to put something together, which is great. And then Cliff, to your point, I think where you've mentioned you need to create a work experience for everybody, no matter where where they are. What English have I got there? I think that's important as well, because I think that your work experience now comes from, if you are going and you're going to work with a group of people in a, like you said, maybe in the ship's cabin. I doubt whether that will happen, but there needs to be an experience that somehow you can still feel you're part of that group, and you still have that sense of camaraderie, and there's still a sense of you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I think it's a challenge, and I think if people don't apply their minds and try and create this workplace work order strategy, which is much more than just FM and HR. It's really a collaborative effort between the two together to say, and I think it always has been. I just think, as you said, Andrew, people haven't taken that opportunity. So I have to thank you both. It's been really an interesting discussion for me, and I'm sure for our viewers and those who are going to watch it on catch up. I really want to thank you very much for your time. It's been very fruitful for me. I will remember to mention to people to start looking at their workplace strategy, work order strategy. Thanks so much, and hope we'll have you back again sometime. Thanks for your time, Andrew and Cliff.